So I will be doing two different styles of pumpkins, and the first is going to be what's called the rice stitch pattern. And so I'm just going to start off with a slip knot. So again, if you're confused about how to do a slip knot, I just take the end with my right hand and I take the working part of the yarn with my left, and I just cross over like that and make an X. And maybe make the hole just a little bit smaller, bring the tail down. And then I insert my hook like this, kind of pin it like that. And then I grab the yarn and I pull through to make that slip knot. If you don't like doing slip knots, just tie your yarn on and tie it with a regular knot. Okay, so the rice stitch pattern is a multiple of 2 plus 1. And I am going to chain 20, because that is a multiple of 2, with 1 extra. 3, 4, 5, 18, 19, and 20. So I've done 20 chains, and then I need to do the plus 1, so I'm going to make it 21, and then I'm going to start the pattern. And so what the first instruction is to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook and in each chain across. So you're going to yarn over, and this is the one we're coming out of, and it counts as the first. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's this one right here. So yarn over and just insert underneath that strand of the chain and pull up a loop. Yarn over again. Bring through the first 2 loops and then yarn over and go through the second 2. And that is your double crochet. And you're going to double crochet in each chain all the way across to the end. So go ahead and do that, and I will see you right here. I have made my last double crochet right before the slip knot, and so when you count back, you're going to have 18 double crochets, not counting the 3 you skipped here. So this, if you want to count, we're going to count this, but this makes 19 because this kind of counts as a double crochet. But after you have skipped the 3, you will double crochet 18 additional double crochets. So now we're going to turn the work, and we are going to chain 2, and we're going to turn it. And from here, we are going to do a front post double crochet. And with this pattern, we're going to be alternating from front post to back post technique. So we're going to start with the front post double. So yarn over and go in between these 2 stitches and around from behind your double crochet, and then you will yarn over and pull up a loop behind that double crochet, and then you'll yarn over again and pull through the first 2 loops, just like that. For this next double crochet, we're going to do a back post double. So you're going to yarn over just like normal, and instead of coming from the front and around like we just did, you're going to go from behind and enter this way. And then you're going to go around that double crochet, yarn over, slide the yarn across that double crochet and up from behind. Be careful of that strand Sometimes it wants to overlap and not let you pull it up, so just be careful of that. And then yarn over, go through the first 2 loops just like a regular double crochet, and then the second 2 loops. Okay, let's do it one more time together. Back to a front post double, and we're just alternating front, back, all the way across. So one more time, gonna yarn over, do a front post double around the next double crochet. So we've yarned over, we're coming from the front, going back and around from behind. Use your other hand, that always helps me, to yarn over and pull up a loop from behind the stitch, just like that. Keep your tension good, but not too tight. Yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and go through the second 2 loops. And now you've completed another front post double crochet. We'll do one more back post together. Yarn over, come from behind, go across the front of it, yarn over, pull back through and across the front of that post. And you can see how you run into trouble here a little bit, so keep those separate and bring up that loop. And then yarn over through the first 2, yarn over through the second 2 loops. And what you're gonna do is create that rice weave pattern, and you're gonna go all the way across until we get to the last double crochet, which is right here before the bend of the ones you skipped. So go ahead and do that. Do a front post double around this double crochet, and then I'll show you where to go from here. I have completed my last front post double around the last double crochet here. And now I'm just going to do a half double crochet in the top of the last stitch here that was the part that we skipped in the beginning when we did the when we worked into the 4th chain from the hook. Yarn over and go into the top and pull up a loop. And then as we do a half double, you don't do 2 and then 2, you go through the last 3 for the half double crochet. All right, so that is the pattern. And from here, what you do is you chain another 2, and then you turn your work and you go back that way. Go back this way. And it's always starting with a front post, ending with a front post. So when you turn it over, you are now looking at the pattern as a back post. So this is now in the position of a back post, even though it was a front post over here, if that makes any sense. So you are yarning over, and see how it's a little shorter than what you would expect with a long, because most of the stitch is being taken up because it's layered. So you yarn over, insert around that post, and pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, and yarn over and go through the second and make your double crochet. And then again, you're going to do a back post around the next one. So you come from behind, use your thumbs, wrap around that post, pull up a loop. This is the one that's a little more difficult because of weaving all around like this. And you keep it on your hook, pull it up, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the second 2. Okay, so it just takes a little practice, but you can do it. And now this next one, you're going to do the front, yarn over, start from this side, go around that post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and complete a double crochet. So then when you complete that last front post double crochet around this post, then you're going to do your half double crochet in the top of this chain 2. Okay, and just do that and build all the way up for 32 rows. And after you get to 32 rows, you're going to have a long rectangle, and then we will sew it together and make the pumpkin. One thing I really recommend doing is getting out a piece of paper and a pen and writing everything down. So for here, it was my instruction of chain 21, or however many, chains you want, however big of a pumpkin you want. This one is going to be a small pumpkin. And then do it for 32 rows. So I write out 1 through 32, and then every time I complete a row, I cross it off. And that kind of helps keep track of everything, so you don't have to go back and, because sometimes with these weave patterns, it's really kind of difficult to just count your rows because of the weave part of it. So I just like to do this. It makes everything a lot easier and keeps me on track. Now that I have gotten to the corner, I do have this tail from the beginning of the panel. Go ahead and tuck that on the inside and then put the pieces together like that. I think I'm going to do just one more whip stitch right here just to kind of finalize that corner. And then now we're looking at what is going to be the bottom of the pumpkin. And we're not going to sew a tight stitch across like that. I think I'm going to aim for every other stitch. So I'm just going to go out to here, and then I'm going to go over here and just pull through loosely, and just keep it loose for now. And I'm just going to do it and stay to the top of the edge and just keep it loose for now. So I'm on the inside. I'm going to go from the inside to the outside again. And just skipping about every other stitch. I am back to the beginning. I think I'll just go out a little bit and in again, right by that tail. Okay, and now you're going to just pull it all and it's going to close. So pull it all tight, and it is going to close. Just like that. And just pull it nice and tight. If this keeps popping out, we can just weave it in and tie it off. But just pull it super tight. And then when you have it tight like that, we're going to, you can finish it off by sewing into the closure and just going across a couple of times, just like that. Then I'm going to come through the bottom, pull it up this way, and if you want, you can take the tail and just make a knot. And just kind of tie it off that way too. And maybe I'll do one more to make an actual knot. There. Great. That looks good. For this next pattern, I'm going to use orange, and I'm going to show another option for a pumpkin that's very simple. To make the slip knot, again, I have the tail in my right hand, and I cross over like that, and you can just pull it tight a little bit, and I put my hook in, pin it with one hand, and then yarn over and draw through the loop. And that's a nice quick way to make a slip knot. And then for a smaller pumpkin, I'm going to chain 20. So if you'd like to follow along, go ahead and chain 20. Also, I am using a 5mm hook for this particular yarn. And this is the Peaches and Cream, same as the pumpkin before. So go ahead and chain 20 if you want to follow along, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I have just finished chaining 20, and then I'm going to chain an additional chain because now I'm going to work into that 20 with half double crochets. So yarn over and go to the second chain from the hook, and just insert that right under that strand of the chain, and yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and draw through all 3 loops on the hook for a half double crochet. And then I'm going to do that in the chain all the way down the chain, and when I get to the end, we will turn it. So go ahead and half double crochet. Let's do one more together. Yarn over, insert the hook in the next chain, which is right here. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, draw through all 3 loops on the hook. And that is the half double crochet. So go ahead and complete the chain, and I will see you right here. I have crocheted the last half double in the last chain, which was the first chain. And then we're going to work another row going backwards. So go ahead and chain 1 and turn the work. The way this pattern is going to work, it's going to be every other row is going to be in the back loop only. So I've made a regular row on the chain, and now I'm going to go ahead and start that pattern. So for row 2, I'm going to crochet the half double in the back loop only. So if you turn it this way, you'll see all the little V's of the half double. And we are going to, I'm going to drop my hook for a second. We're going to work in this stitch. So it's going to almost look like you're working in the same stitch, which you pretty much are, because we're going to keep this at 20 half doubles the entire time. So yarn over, and you'll see it like this. You're going to do it in the back loop only, which is this loop here. Pull up a loop, and then yarn over and draw through all 3 loops on the hook. Okay, so that back loop is the one furthest away from you, which is this one. So every stitch going all the way down, you're going to do a half double in the back loop only. And so go ahead and finish the row, and I will meet you right here. Okay, so I have completed the row of half double crochets in the back loop only, and you can see the pattern developing here. Can you see the little spine that goes across? What the pattern is now for row 3 and just alternating rows, chain 1 and turn the work. So now you're looking at what we're actually going to call the wrong side, because the side with the ribbed look is going to be the outside of the pumpkin. This is the wrong side we're now looking at, and this is the side where you're doing regular half doubles in both loops. So just a normal row of half double crochets all the way down, and make sure you have 20 or whatever number you chose for however big you want your pumpkin to be. We yarn over and we're going to go through both loops just like normal. Pull up a loop, yarn over, and draw through all 3. So again, yarn over, go down and go through both loops, or underneath both loops, and pull up a loop and draw through all 3 for your half double crochets, and you'll go all the way across just like that, just like normal. And then when you get to the end, you're going to chain 1, turn it again, and you're going to do back loop only again. And you'll get good at it and realize that when you're being faced with that ribbing pattern, that you'll know that you're supposed to do your back loop only when you're being faced with the pattern. When it's looking like this and there is no ribbed look, you'll remember that you're supposed to be doing, normal stitches in both loops. And if you're not sure about relying on that, you can write it down, and I'll show you what it looks like. I never just really rely on remembering, even though you can count your rows if you just want to do it that way. But I really like to see where I am and where I've been. I'll just take a piece of paper and I will write 1 through 32, which for this pumpkin, so it's a chain 20 with 1 extra to have 20 half double crochets. But for the amount of rows, it's going to be 32 rows. So I write all of them out, and then every time I complete a row, I mark it off. And if you can see down at the bottom here, I underlined every other row to mark the row that was back loop only. But again, if you're able to just visualize and see, oh, this is the back loop only side, and to do it that way, you can, but I like to write it down. That's an option too if you'd like to keep track of where you are. So that is the pattern for this little pumpkin. So go ahead, and if you want your pumpkin to be this size that I'm making, go ahead and complete with the 20 half double crochets, back loop only every other row, and do 32 rows. And when you're done with that, we will complete the pumpkin. When you've completed your last stitch of this pattern, then you can fasten off. So do 1 last chain and bring up a very long tail. And I like to put my finger in front because I do not want to cut the wrong strand. So it's the moving strand, the one you're pulling up. And just make a long tail and then cut it off, and you're going to use that to sew the pumpkin together. And now I'm going to take the short sides of the panel, and I'm going to put them together. And with my long tail that I left, I'm going to take my yarn needle, thread it, and sew both sides together of the short side with a whip stitch. And feel free to use whatever kind of stitch, whether you want to zigzag back and forth down the line or if you want to do whip stitch. I'm doing a whip stitch, which is just sewing in the same direction all the way down the line. So I'm just using a couple of strands and going through and just sewing in the same direction all the way down. And now I'm looking down at the bottom of the pumpkin where there's the tail from the chain when we first started. And I'm going to zigzag stitch all around the bottom of the pumpkin to close it. And I'm just skipping about every other stitch. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'm just kind of weaving in and out about every other row and not keeping it too tight because we're going to be pulling it all together. So it does need to have a little bit of slack as you go all the way around the edge. When you get back to the beginning, which you'll know by getting back to the tail of the original chain you started with, then we're going to pull the pumpkin all the way closed, but don't pull too tight because sometimes your yarn might snap off, and that has happened to me before. But close it tight without breaking the yarn, and then you are going to sew the rest of the hole closed because there will be a little bit of a hole. And you can just sew that closed, weaving in and out across the hole to close it. When you feel that you have closed it well enough, then just sew through the bottom and bring the yarn up through the inside center of the pumpkin, just like that, and then you will be ready to stuff it full of the polyfill, and then you can sew the rest of the pumpkin closed. So here I'm just securing the yarn a little bit more with another knot just to make sure that it is nice and tight and won't unravel, which it definitely won't doing this many knots. So anyway, do whatever and however many you feel you need to do, and then you can stuff your pumpkin. Now for the stem, I have taken brown yarn of the same type, which is the peaches and cream, and I'm going to make another slip knot. So again, I have the tail on the right side, and I just cross over and make an X, and then I take my hook, which for this particular stem, I'm going to use a smaller hook, just one size down, and it's the 4.25 or the G hook. And I'm going to put it in the loop, kind of tighten it up a little bit, yarn over, pull through the loop and tighten. And that's a very nice quick slip knot. And then I'm going to chain 10 and I'm going to hold it up to my pumpkin and see if it's the length I want. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so I've got 10 chains, and I'm gonna take my pumpkin and I'm just gonna see if it's as long as I want. And you know what? I think that's too long. So I'm gonna go down to 7. So I'm gonna unravel. So 9, 8, 7. Okay. And just size it up to your pumpkin and eyeball it and see what length you think looks better or natural. I think this is better. And having 7, I'm going to lose that 7th chain when I single crochet into the next chain. So for this, I have 7, and so I'm going to have 6 single crochets going down the chain, and I'm just gonna work it back and forth to make the stem. So for this pumpkin, I'm doing 7. What I'm gonna do now is go back down the chain with single crochets. So there's no yarn over, you just go into the next chain. So here is the chain from the hook. So I'm going into the next one because you can never work into the same chain you're coming out of. And just make a yarn over and draw through both loops to make your single crochet. And so I'm going to do that all the way down, and I will have a total of 6 single crochets. So there are 6 now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn it but keep it facing me, and I'm going to crochet in the little cross stitches on the side of the single crochets I just made. So you can see right on the face of the single crochets there are little cross strands from the post of the stitch. So I'm going to go underneath those and single crochet back down the stem this way. Okay, so I've already crocheted 1, and I'm going to start right here, and I'm just going to kind of use my nail also and go right underneath that first strand, and I'm going to pull up a loop and then draw through for my single crochet. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one. You can see it's angled this way. You see that? So I'm going to go underneath it, and I'm going to use my nail. If you don't have a nail, you can take your hook and grab it to kind of lift it up to make it easier and prep it more to get underneath it. So that's a good trick, to use your hook in that way and make your single crochet. Okay, let's go to the next one. It's right here. So you can see that going across like that. So I'll use my hook again. That was a great way to lift it up. So I'm lifting it a little bit just to get underneath it this way. And I'm going to yarn over and make my single crochet. Okay, so I have about 3 more to go. So this one looks like it's pretty easy. Okay, got under it without having to hook it first. Okay, I got 2 more to go. And the best part about this type of stem is that it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's what even makes it look more real, is if it looks a little jagged and rugged. Okay. Great, so now what we have is almost like a little triangular type stem. So when you kind of stretch it out and you roll it over, you'll see that it's almost like a triangle, and there are like 3 different sides. There's this side, a ridge, this side, and this side. So I went ahead and I chained 1 last time and drew up a long tail, and I cut the yarn off, leaving a tail for sewing. Okay, so I have my yarn needle, and I'm going to take the tail and feed it back down the stem. And you can just do it anywhere. So I'm gonna just go right in the middle of the stem and just weave it in the middle as much as possible, and just go all the way down the stem. just kind of pull it through like that. And then from here, I'm going to sew it onto my pumpkin. And I'm just going to kind of line it up and see where I want the stem to go, and if I'm happy with the length, and I think I am, I think that's very cute. And you just sew it on. So try to stay close to the base of the stem, and it's going to take some work, especially if your pumpkin is thicker. And just knowing that I'm right there, I can visualize, drop the stem, and just go through. And if you want, you can tie these together if you wanted to do that too. You could tie it, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to weave this in separately. And the cool thing is too, doing it this way, when you pull it, it crinkles this even more, making it look a little more real. Or you can not do that, just depending on what you want your stem to look like. But in pulling it a little bit, it does make it crinkle a little bit, which I kind of like that. I like that look. And just keep weaving until you are satisfied with the connection of your stem, and then I'll show you how to hide the tails. Okay, I went back and forth a couple times, and I'm happy with the connection and placement of my stem. And so now I'm just going to go into the base of the stem and just do a knot, a loop knot like you do in sewing. So see my knot, and I'm going to go into the loop and just kind of secure it like that. And then I'm going to hide the tail deep down into the pumpkin. So I'm going to go down at the base where the stems is connected. And I'm going to go off to the side of the pumpkin and push. And just be careful not to get it lost. So don't go too far where you lose control of the needle. And just pull it. And then push the pumpkin down, pull, cut at the base, and then when you release it, it disappears. And I like the little crinkle that is there because of the pulling it down like that. All right, so that's it for just a simple, easy pumpkin for a fall decoration. And I think it turned out really well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.